The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. This is Megan with Georgia's Pre-K and with the Summer Transition Program. I'm going to unmute Bridget so she can talk for a few minutes, and then I will put her back on mute, and I will keep you all on mute during the presentation. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and I will take you on, unmute you, or you can type in questions if you have any questions while I'm speaking. Okay, Bridget, you're unmuted.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this webinar. Thank you, Megan, for being willing to take your time to share this information with us. Ambassadors, I just want to say welcome and thank you for everything you do. Please continue to send us your event approval requests. And remember, you get 2 events this quarter, so between now and the end of March, and you get 2 events in April and May. From the time of April and May. So if you'll please listen to what Megan has to say and then look for follow-up emails from me. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Bridget. So we also are going, this webinar is being recorded, so I know there are some folks obviously that couldn't be on it today, so we will have this recorded for them, and I will get with Bridget to figure out where we want to post that for them. It'll be a bigger file, so I'm not sure it's something we can email, but we can probably go ahead and get it posted somewhere on our website for you. So like I said earlier, I'm going to talk a little bit about Georgia's Pre-K program and our Summer Transition Program. And this is more just about to give you kind of the basic information so that when you're working with families or have questions about the programs, you have a little more information to share. And I'm happy at any time to talk with you individually. You can email me or call me to talk about anything specific with Pre-K or our Summer Transition Program. All right, give me 1 second. It's not wanting to forward. Okay. So a little bit of a background about our Georgia's Pre-K program. It was the first universal state Pre-K program. So what that means is it's open to any child that lives in our state as long as they meet the age and the age and the citizenship requirement. The program has been around for 27 years. When it first started, it was actually a pilot program and it was a targeted program. So there was an income eligibility that they looked at as well as an age requirement for students. And that sort of evolved after the first 5 or 6 years into a program that was open to any child who meets the requirements of age and residency. And it's grown significantly. We're up to serving 84,000 students a year. Which is very exciting. So it's a real big program and it's spread all around the state of Georgia. It is funded through the lottery. So the Georgia lottery dollars, part of the money goes towards the Pre-K program and part of the money goes into the Hope Scholarship for college. And so we're a unique state in the fact that we do have our Georgia lottery dollars funding education in the state. And so we are thankful for that and love the fact that our folks in Georgia feel like it's important enough for it to go towards education. I said earlier, the program is in all 159 counties in Georgia. It is a public-private partnership, so there are a lot of classrooms who will be housed in a public school, and then a lot of classrooms that will be housed in a private child care center. We do have some, too, that are housed in public universities and technical colleges around the state. So there's about 3,900 classrooms in those 159 counties, and we see a pretty even split. There's about a 50-50% split between the 2 types of programs. So it's nice that parents have options, that they can choose a private child care center or they can choose a public school. Not every county has both. So some counties may only offer it in a private child care center while some may only offer it in a public school. And so it just depends on where you are around the state, what type of program you're going to find. We do have a great search engine, which hopefully all of you are familiar with, but it can be accessed through our families website. So I've put that at the bottom, families.decal.ga.gov. And so families can search for programs on that website specifically that offer a Georgia's pre-K program. They can also search for programs that are quality rated. They need to put in their information about either where they live or where they work. They can search by an address, a zip code, a county, so they can find programs that offer Georgia's pre-K and then follow up with those programs at that point. Just a little bit about Georgia's pre-K. Not everybody knows kind of all the details about it. So it is a program that runs typically the length of a school year. So when we have a program in a county, chances are that that program is following the same school system calendar as the county is. So whether it's a private child care center or a public school, you'll see a lot of similarities around the calendar piece of it. It is 180 days long, so it does typically start in August and run until May, though some of our school systems are starting at the end of July, and then some even are going pretty much almost year-round now. So the calendar is going to vary depending on where that family is and what school they're looking at, but you should see at least a 180-day calendar for that school. The program actually runs for 6.5 hours, so it's an instructional day. So the program will start typically anywhere between 7:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll go 6.5 hours from that time. So if you have a parent who needs before or after school care, that's typically available to families and they would have to pay for that. But when we talk about the 6.5 hour instructional day, that's going to be free for families, which means that families should not be charged for their child to be there. The only fee that a family might see is a fee for meals/snacks that are served during the pre-K instructional day. And that's going to depend on the program. We don't set that amount from the state. We do let our schools set the amount that their meals and snacks are going to be. So you'll typically see a weekly or a monthly fee that a family might have to pay. Now, if a family does qualify for what we consider Category 1 status, which means a family who would be receiving CAPS, Medicaid, TANF, SNAP, or SSI, if a family can show proof that they're receiving one of those state services, then that fee for the meals/snacks would be waived for that family. So the school could not charge them for meals or snacks. So that's a little bit about the instructional day. And again, there should be no fees associated with the instructional day for families outside of potentially a meal or snack fee. You are going to see class sizes of 22 students in our Georgia's pre-K program. So with that, you're also going to see 2 teachers. You'll have a lead teacher and an assistant teacher in those classrooms, both of which have to meet credential requirements in order to be eligible to teach in a pre-K classroom. So you're going to see lead teachers who have typically a minimum of at least a 4-year degree. Many of our teachers have a master's degree or higher, and most of our teachers are certified. But you are going to see a credential level teacher in the classroom as the lead teacher, as well as an assistant teacher. Our assistant teachers have to have a minimum of at least a CDA or a technical college certificate. And then you also see a lot of our assistant teachers have a lot higher degrees than that. So you're going to see those 22 students, 2 teachers, which gives us a ratio of 1 to 11 in pre-K. We used to have a ratio of 1 to 10, and when we had budget cuts years ago, we increased that ratio to serve more students and less classes. And right now, don't see that ratio going down. So we are at that 2 to 22. If you have a family who has a child who might be considered eligible for an inclusion class, we do offer about 190 inclusion classes around the state. And those are Georgia's pre-K inclusion classes, which means they are a collaborative effort between the public school and a private child care center. And so you will have children who have IEPs or individualized education programs in with students who do not have that. So they're in with their typical peers. But again, this is a working relationship, these classrooms, between the Board of Ed sites and our private child care centers. In those situations, the class size will probably be maxed at 18 students. And a lot of times you're going to see 3 teachers instead of 2, because that 3rd teacher is going to be a support teacher that comes over from the local school system. They might be in that class full-time or part-time. But again, it's a great collaborative relationship. So if you have any parents who have young children who have identified special needs and are currently participating in the local school system IEP process, they may be a child that could be eligible for one of our inclusion classes in your community. If you have more specific questions, we also have something called our pre-K operating guidelines, which is a lot more information than you will probably ever need, but it also has a lot of really great information. So not only do we ask you to go check that information out, we also ask that you share that information with parents, because we want parents to be on the up and up. We want them to know everything they need to know about pre-K. So a great resource for them is our pre-K operating guidelines. And you can see I've listed the website. So if you went to our decal.ga.gov website, you go to programs, go to pre-K, and then there's the operating guidelines that they can click on and either read it online or download it. But again, a lot of really good information about everything that a family might need to know about going to Georgia's pre-K. So right now, where I think we wanted to get this information out to all of you, because you're in the communities, you're working with families. This is I guess our prime time for registering for pre-K for the upcoming school year. So currently right now we're in the 2019-2020 school year. We're registering already for the 2020-2021 school year. A lot of our programs start early. It's very popular. Some of our programs fill up really quickly. So we want to make sure that we've gotten this information to all of you so that you can share this with the families that you encounter in your communities. How we do registration in pre-K is a little bit different. We don't have a one main registration day across the state. We let our programs individually decide when they're going to register for their own programs. So for parents, it could be a little challenging because you might have one school that starts in January, another school down the street that starts in February. The local school system might do it in March. So we want to make sure that parents understand that, as well as that parents understand that they do not have to just put their child's name on one waiting list or try to enroll at just one school. We want parents to know that they have options for Georgia's pre-K, and so that they want to make sure that they're looking at what all their options could be. So the most important thing for all of you right now to work with families is, earlier I mentioned that families website where they can go and search for pre-K. That would be what they want to do right now. Some parents know. They might have a school that's close to them and they say, this is where I want my child to go. This is where I want what all my other children went. Or you might have parents who have no idea where they want their kids to go. And so this is a great way for families to go onto that website, to put in, let's say, their zip code, to find all the schools in their area. They can go and visit those schools. Pre-K is happening right now, so I always encourage parents to go in and observe the classroom, go take your tours right now, go get kind of all your information, and then kind of decide where you want to put your child's name on a wait list or where you really want to try to get in. So locating the programs now is a great idea, and even contacting them right now. So if you've got 4 or 5 programs that a parent wants to go to potentially, call all those programs, find out about registration, go ahead and get their name on all those waiting lists, so that then they have the time to go ahead and kind of research those programs. So adding a child's name to a waiting list is absolutely fine. They can add them to multiple waiting lists. There's not any sort of max or anything like that. There should be no fees for the families to sign up or to be added to the waiting list. So you would never expect a family to be charged any sort of money for their child to be on a wait list or to be registered for a pre-K program. So make sure that your families understand that, because we do hear sometimes about families being charged money. And so we have to make sure our programs and our families understand that they can't do that. And then making sure once we kind of got everything set with registration, we've got our names on the waiting list, then we want to make sure that the parents have the required registration documentation. Because if they don't have that, then some of the schools may not take them on the wait list until they're able to show proof of that. The biggest thing is going to be that the child is age eligible and lives in the state of Georgia, because those are the two things that would either, allow a child to participate or not allow a child to participate. So proof of age, the reason we do this is a child has to be 4 by September 1st of the school year that they want to attend pre-K. So for this next school year, a child would need to be 4 by September 1 of 2020. The reason we are pretty strict about that is that a child is not eligible to go to kindergarten until they're 5 of the school year that they want to start kindergarten. So if we started allowing families to enroll whenever and didn't have a date, then that child potentially would have a year where they couldn't do anything. If they went to pre-K and they went early, then they would not be able to go to kindergarten until they're 5. So we really do stand by our September 1st cutoff. We get parents all the time that call, my child's birthday September 2nd. Can I please let them come to pre-K? And we can't, because again, then they would have nothing to do for a year because they wouldn't be eligible for kindergarten. So you're going to find that programs are going to request a copy of a birth certificate, a copy of a live certificate of birth from the hospital, a passport, something showing that they are age eligible. There is a list of acceptable documents in the pre-K operating guidelines that I spoke about earlier. So that's why I was saying it's a good idea for y'all to be familiar with those items as well, and make sure that you know what parents should and should not be able to use for proof of age. We also then have proof of Georgia residency. And the reason we do that, like I live in Gwinnett County, and people used to ask me all the time, like, where is somebody going to come from another state to go to school in Gwinnett? Well, of course, they're not going to do that, but we do have many counties in our state that border other states. So we do have a lot of parents that come into our state to work, and they want to bring their children in to pre-K while they're at work. So we do have that rule that the family has to show proof of Georgia residency. And there's a list of acceptable documents as well in the operating guidelines. But you're going to see things like utility bills and a copy of a lease or a copy of a mortgage or something showing that that family actually has residency here. If you have a family that lives with somebody else, which is very common, then that other family would just have to write a letter stating that this family is living with them, and that person would need to show proof of residency. So we do work with folks. We also have situations where families have had a disaster and they've lost, all the birth documents and things that they had. So they actually don't have anything, or, domestic abuse or violence where one parent has left the situation in an emergency and hasn't taken the items with them. So we absolutely will work individually with a family who might be going through something that's kind of out of the normal circumstances. If they don't have those documents, we can work with them on that until they can get proof of the age. So again, we'll work with those parents or on that Georgia residency or proof of age. So those would be 2 things that a parent should need to show before they can register. After that, once a child is enrolled at a school, so the parent might get 4 phone calls and say, well, you've been enrolled at our school, that parent needs to make a choice at that point. We don't want to keep 4 spots open on 4 different waiting lists, because then that's not fair to other families that are out there. So we do ask parents to try to make a decision once they get informed of whether or not they've been accepted at a school. And then once they make that decision, then there are going to be things that they're going to need to provide. Some of these they'll have time to get them, but there is going to be what we call an ear, eye, dental, and nutrition screening. That's something that the family will actually have 90 days from the day they start pre-K, so they wouldn't really need to get this to the school until next year, typically sometime in November. But some parents want to get this done over the summer. They want to get all this stuff taken care of. So a screening is something that they can go to their doctor's office, a local health department, but there's a form in Georgia that families would use and all the doctor's offices use, and it just screens the child's vision, hearing, dental, and nutrition. And so we're trying to identify any problems early so that these children can receive support services in pre-K before they get to kindergarten, because a lot of those issues can impact their learning. So we do want that screening to be completed. We also have immunization forms, so the child that has 30 days from the start of pre-K to provide a school with their immunization information. Also, one of the things that we use in pre-K, so I'll stop for a minute. When a child enrolls in pre-K, they're assigned something called a GTID number, which is called the Georgia Testing Identification Number. And what this is this is a number that's assigned in pre-K that will follow the student all the way through until they leave the state of Georgia, as long as they're enrolled in a public school. So one of the things that we do is, because we're assigning this to 4-year-olds, is that we try to use as many what we call unique identifiers to make sure this child is this child. So things like their birth certificate and the information that the programs enter on a roster that they submit to Bright from the start. But one of the things that we do use as a unique identifier is a social security number, because that is directly tied to a child, and that helps us say, well, this child really is who this child says they are. But some parents don't want to share the social security number, which is totally fine. There is a waiver form that they could fill out if they chose not to provide that social security number. But just one of the reasons they do that really is for using it as a unique identifier for that child. There's also going to be other registration documents on site that they'll need. We have registration forms and some other things that they would be required to fill out once they actually enroll in pre-K at a location. Make sure nobody has any questions. Don't see any. So is there any questions about pre-K? Well, I'll stop before I roll into my summer transition program. Again, I think the biggest things to take away is go on the website, go through the pre-K operating guidelines and update on some of those. And then to make sure that parents are out there right now looking for locations for next school year. If you have a child that's 4 right now and hasn't been in pre-K, but maybe has moved into the area late or doesn't know about pre-K or whatever the circumstance may be, they can enroll at any time during the school year. So if a school has openings and you have a family that needs pre-K, you can absolutely enroll in pre-K anytime during the school year. It's never too late. We'd rather have a student have some education before going to kindergarten than none at all. So, but that's a good segue into my next program, which is called our Summer Transition Program, or as we refer to it as STP. We like our acronyms at Bright from the Start. So actually, Georgia's Department of Early Care and Learning, we have had a name change. So anyway, our Summer Transition Program is a really, really great program. It has been around now for about 10 years. We have 2 different types of programs that fall into the Summer Transition Program. One is for students who are coming into pre-K in the fall, and one is for students who are going into kindergarten in the fall. So I'm going to talk a little bit about both. This program is Rising Pre-K. So again, this is our students who are entering pre-K in the fall. So sometimes these little kiddos are only 3 and are just turning 4 because they're getting ready to come to pre-K in August. The unique thing about our Rising Pre-K program is it's specifically designed to support children whose home language is Spanish. The reason that we've done this is that we did a lot of research in pre-K, and one of the things that came out of those research studies was that children who were the most behind at the end of the pre-K year were the children whose home language was Spanish. So we know that all dual language learners would benefit from being and immersed in language development, but we can't open this program up to everybody. So we have a small group of classes, and we've identified those right now as our Spanish speaking classrooms. We do have a few classrooms that we're piloting that serve other languages, and those are in the Clarkston area, if any of you are in Clarkston. But if not, most of the Rising Pre-K classrooms that you will encounter around the state are going to be for the Spanish speaking families and children. This program, I think earlier I said we have about 3,900 pre-K classrooms during the school year. That's a lot of classrooms. In the summer total, we have about 220 classrooms for my summer transition program. So it's not funded through the Georgia Lottery. It's funded through a federal money that we get through a block grant. And so we have some different stipulations around the program in the summer. And unfortunately, the class sizes we don't have as many. But it runs very, very similar to a pre-K classroom you would see during the school year, which is why it's really great for kids. So we run it like a school program. It's not day camp, it's not summer camp. We're really there to get kids either ready to come to pre-K or ready to go to kindergarten. So you're going to see that it's a 6.5-hour instructional day, just like the pre-K classes were during the school year. And it's going to run very similar. So we talk about the daily schedule. You're going to see a lot of similarities between a daily schedule in a pre-K classroom versus one in a summer classroom. This is a 6-week program, so it's a 29 instructional day program, and its run typically starts in the beginning of June and will run through mid-July. The reason we can't go any longer is because a lot of our school systems start getting ready to go back to school at the end of July, and like I said earlier, some of them actually go back in the end of July, so we have 29 days that we say 29 days because typically the 4th of July falls. This year I think it's on a Saturday, but normally it falls in there and the students would not be in school on the 4th of July. But 6 weeks of pretty intense academic instruction for kids, and it's amazing what you can do in 6 weeks with students, when you've only got a smaller class size. So you can see for Rising Pre-K, our maximum in the class is only 14 students. So you think about a pre-K classroom during the year with 22 students. In the summer, 14 students in Rising Pre-K is pretty amazing. And on any given day, you're probably missing a child or two. So really, these teachers are really getting individualized time with these students, and these students are getting a lot of instruction. You're also going to see the same. I spoke earlier about one lead and one assistant teacher. These teachers more than likely are pre-K teachers during the school year that have just come over to work in the summertime. So they're used to pre-K, they're used to working in the classroom, they're familiar with the routines and schedules and whatnot. So it really is a good, carryover from the pre-K class during the school year. The unique thing for our Rising Pre-K classrooms, as you can see, is one of the teachers must be fluent in Spanish. And obviously when you've got students who come in where the majority of them don't speak any Spanish and probably don't speak any English, and the parents don't usually speak a lot of English, it's very important to have a teacher there who can communicate with the students. And so it may be the lead teacher, it may be the assistant teacher, but at least one of those teachers has to be fluent in Spanish. So that's a really great thing for those students. Also, the unique thing about summer is we have something called the transition coach position that we don't have during the school year. And this person is specifically there just to work with the families. It's all about families. And so a lot of times this might be a teacher who doesn't want to work full time in the summer. And so they want a part-time job, which this transition coach position is a part-time position, 20 hours a week for one classroom. So that person is there to do trainings and support families. They help with identifying students to participate in the class over the summer. They help with making sure families meet eligibility requirements in the summer. And then they provide workshops and different family engagement activities for those families over the summer. So it's, again, a really cool thing. And that person for the Rising Pre-K classrooms also must be fluent in Spanish. So again, because they're the ones who are working really closely with the families, and we want to make sure that they can communicate with them. As you can see in the summer, we only have 66 Rising Pre-K classrooms. So it's a much smaller program. It's grown a lot. When I took over this program, it only had 20 classes, so we've actually grown significantly. But we're always hoping to add more. And like I said, we've introduced a few other dual language classrooms into the summer program. We've got 3 total, and like I said, those are in the Clarkston area. And so we'll hopefully in the future be adding additional classrooms on that might service other dual language learners, but for now, that's the requirement. One thing I want to make sure that you understand too, summer, I said earlier that we use federal funds to support this program. There is an income eligibility requirement that comes along with our summer program. So that's a big difference from our school year program. We don't check income in the school year program, but in the summer we do, because we really want to serve our most at-risk students. So the families must meet the income eligibility requirements. And I have a whole website and I'll show you, but there also is operating guidelines for our summer program, which includes the income eligibility information in there. So if you have a family that you think might be eligible or interested, you can point them to that, or you can give them my information and I'm happy to talk with them. The other program is our Rising, we call it Rising K, but it's really Rising Kindergarten. So now we're on the other side of pre-K. So this would be for students who would be eligible to go to kindergarten in August. So these are the kids that will be 5 by September 1 of 2020. So it may be students who were in pre-K this school year and need additional support in the summer. It may be kids who never got into pre-K. Maybe they were on a wait list. They moved into the area late. They only got part of a year. Maybe they had an illness that took them out of the program and they missed a lot of school. So this program is open for kids who've either not gone at all, gone part of the year, or gone all of the year but need additional time. And when we talk about kids who've gone all year, then they need additional time, we're more than likely going to see kids who are dual language learners, kids who might have an identified special need, kids who are very, very like at risk, and we don't want them at home in the summer. They're safer being at school, or they're going to get more than being at home, maybe being cared for by a young sibling or something like that. So it is a nice program in the fact that even if a child's gone to pre-K all school year, but they're still struggling or need additional support, they're allowed to go in the summer. Again, runs very similar. It's a 6.5-hour day. It's the same. It's a 29-day, 6-week program that runs starting in June, going through mid-July. This class size, because these students are a little bit older, the class size for this is 16 students is the max, but you're still going to see that lead and assistant teacher. And there's also a transition coach position. Now, this program's open to any child, not just Spanish-speaking families. So this is any child who would meet the age, the income requirements for going to the Rising Kindergarten program. And as you can see, it's a bit larger than our Rising Pre-K. We have 154 classes around the state for Rising Kindergarten. So great program. I'm sure some of you know some families of children who would benefit from it. So if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to me, or I have a lot of information on our website. I wanted to include our website. So I'm sure all of you have been on the DECAL website, but this is under the pre-K side of it. So if you were to go to pre-K, at the bottom, you see there's a summer transition program tab that you click on, and then there's the ability to see all the different things. Also, when you log into DECAL, if you click on the programs at the top, at the very bottom, it says Summer Transition Program, which will then take you right to this page. So probably what's going to be most important for you is what pops up right away, which on the Families tab is the list of our sites. So that's current as of yesterday. So there could potentially be a small change or two, but for the most part, these sites are offering the programs this summer. So when you click on the Rising Kindergarten, Rising Pre-K site list, it's going to include the name of the school, the address, the county, the phone number, and then it's also going to tell you how many classes that school has. So we do have some schools that have more than one classroom. So if you have a family that lives in that county and they're interested in it, that would be the best way to go ahead and start looking. Same thing like with pre-K, the parent would contact, or you could help the parent contact the school directly. And at that point, you're inquiring about the summer transition program to see if they have any openings in their class. Once they say yes, then they'll go ahead and probably check the parent's income eligibility, because we need to make sure before we enroll that families meet that income eligibility and that age requirement. But also you can see here there is a project director tab, which would include some of the operating guidelines that I talked about earlier. There's also a Rising Kindergarten and a Rising Pre-K tab that have additional information on there. So that's great information. Also, I want to talk about the CAPS. CAPS is the Child Care and Parent Services that offer the subsidies or scholarships for before and after school care. And again, I'm sure you're all familiar with that. In the summer, if a family needs before and after school care, so they're going to participate in our Rising Pre-K, and then they also work or go to school and need before and after school care, we kind of can fast track them in for summer because it's such a quick program. So you'd want to make sure that the family works with the transition coach at the school and lets them know that they need before and after school care, so that we can go ahead and get them quickly set up with the scholarship for before and after school care for summer. Obviously, CAPS and before and after school care scholarships are also available during the school year program, but this one's specifically for the summer program. If you have any questions, you can see right there it says questions or comments. That's the general email box, summerschool@decal.ga.gov. That comes directly to me anyway, but you're more than welcome to shoot an email there or email me directly, which I didn't do a slide. So Bridget can share my email and my phone number with all of you. That's probably easier than me trying to spell it out on here, but you can also reach me through the Summer School email box. So does anybody have any questions about anything that I spoke about today, about pre-K, registration? I see we've got someone, so let me go ahead and open. It's Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. My question is, when submitting documents for pre-K, do the parent need to bring in all original documents, or can they go ahead and make copies to give to the representative?
Yes, and that's a great question. We absolutely want them to bring in copies. We don't want them to bring in their original because that might be the only copy that they have that's got the original seal. So for pre-K, it does not have to be the original copy of anything. It can be a photocopy of that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. So I want to thank you for your time. If you think of something that comes up, again, I'm happy to answer anything. I'm always available, email, phone call, just reach out. And as we get closer to summer, if you have questions about summer, you can go ahead. Their schools are registering for summer now as well as pre-K for next school year. So we've got a lot going on currently, but I'm happy to be available whenever you need help. Again, this is going to be recorded. And I'll get with Bridget and we can figure out where we'll place it on the DECAL website so that you have access to it. And she'll let you know that as well as my email and my phone number directly. So I appreciate your time and hope you all have a great day.